we're gonna turn this around. Patty. That's good. It's gonna, you know what? It's just gonna have to, what? Yeah, let's go back. Here.
Well, yeah, we want to move some chairs and slide this table back.
Yep. Okay, will you just grab that end? Let's go back. Oops. There. Move. Yep, we're there. Excuse me. Yeah, we're processing.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
You're good with your nose? We move that trash up front. Checking. Let me in. Is that broadcasting now?
And it says you have to be let in. Or start it.
Hi. Okay, let me give you your assignment. Just 1 second. I'm getting the Facebook Live. Yes. I'm gonna give you.
Come later.
I did text, email. So hopefully. Yeah. And Jeff. Okay.
It's kind of
It's because of the sound. Shut off the sound on your phone.
well, mine's on you already.
The second screen. Okay. So I'm going to give you the microphone. And during the first, so we're going to introduce. Our microphone person for the audience. So Brent's going to talk. Kelly's going to take the microphone to anyone who wants to have a question. Then we're going to take the microphone back to the program. And then and we don't have time for questions for that introduction. And then that's it for microphone. Okay. So you keep going in and just click admit all to that, please.
You need to fix
Let
that.
me fix that
This
really quick. Sorry. And Matt, if you want to stand up for us and get ready to go.
Yeah, it's whatever.
What'd you say? Admit all? And mute all? Yeah.
Admit all.
And mute all.
Yes. Admit and mute all. Yes.
So that.
Hey, here you go. Your life.
Okay.
For all of our city council and mayor candidates, you guys want to go ahead and take the place on the stage. We're about to get started. Good evening. Hope you all are well. I'm Matt Kanab with the Kanab Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you all to tonight's candidates forum. So thank you to all of our candidates for being here, as well as all of you. And before I hand it over to our moderator to get started, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, well, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for this evening, which is Patty Hegwood. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, I'm Matt Clark. Oh, wait, it's wrong. Thank you all for coming this evening. This is really a cool opportunity for all of us to talk with one another, to also get some of our questions answered and to meet all of our awesome candidates. Some folks couldn't be here tonight and for very good reasons. There's lots of stuff going on, but we'll try to deliver to you as much information as we possibly can. A lot of us have seen so much progress here in Kanab over the last 10, 20 years. Well, most of us have. Some of us are just turning 20, yay. But I came here back 16 years ago, and I remember back when we had one red light, right? And how many people actually blew through that second red light? Exactly. Because like all of a sudden you're like, oh no, that was me. So, other than lights and all of the wonderful business that we have here and all of the amazing people that live in our community, we have a lot of super opportunities. And I think that this is yet another one of those great opportunities. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Brent Chamberlain. Come on up. For those of you, we know Brent. Let's give him a round of applause. Hey, Mr. Brent.
So what Patty didn't say is I'm here to talk a little bit, to give you information on Proposition 10, which is on the ballot this November 2nd. By a show of hands, how many of you feel like you have a really good understanding of this whole shuttle thing that we're trying to create? Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's why we're here. Basically, this started with efforts. Well, first let me say, tourism and visitors that come to the area make up over 40% of the county's economy. And so they're critical to us. And the main driver of that is Zion National Park. And Zion National Park had reached a point prior to COVID, and nobody knows what normal is going to look like again, but prior to COVID, where they felt like they were overcrowded. And there was, if you've been down there, you know the crowding was a legitimate issue. And so we started working on things that could be done to help relieve the crowding in the park and enhance the visitor experience so that it wouldn't have a detrimental effect on our economy. And one of those, and perhaps the most impactful, will be to create a shuttle system that will allow people to board a shuttle in Kanab or on a visitor at the visitor center that we're working to build up on the east side of the park, right down into the park, and park their car, leave their car either in Kanab or at the visitor center. And especially the large vehicles, hopefully leave those at the visitor center and ride the shuttle in. But maybe more importantly, when the crowds are too large in Zion and you can't hike the height you want to hike, you can hop on that shuttle down in the park and ride it back out to the east side of the park, or in Kanab if you want. But get off on the east side, and we're working to develop a whole network of trails, both biking and hiking trails on the east side of the park. So the shuttle system will involve Kanab City and unincorporated King County, and those are the people who actually are in a position to vote on November 2nd. It only includes Kanab City and unincorporated, because that's the areas that we'll serve. Now, can it be expanded after it's created? You bet. If if Orderville wants to have the shuttle going up there, it can be done by petitioning the board and going through the process to add to that. But initially, this is what I would do: is just provide services between Kanab and the park, and primarily in the park, in and out of the park. As it travels into the park, we have already have arrangements made, and we're still working on kind of firming those up to make several stops on the east side of the park, perhaps even go up the main canyon and let people get off, go on hikes, and then pick up the next shuttle, come along, and we'll have these shuttles come in about every 15 minutes or at least, if not more frequent than that. Now, the most important thing you need to be aware of is this agency that we are creating or trying to create will not have authority to tax anybody. So it cannot create additional taxes on Kanab City residents or King County residents. No new taxes, no additional taxes. The monies will come from other sources to operate it, and of course from other sources to buy the equipment, buy the buses, to get those things going. We will have the first of the shuttles supposed to be delivered October 1st, and COVID seems to have messed that up a little bit too, and so it's probably going to be here by the middle of October. It's just to test it. These are electric shuttles, the one that will be running in and out of the park. And so we've got these chargers out here in the parking lot. Those were part of the plan to develop those, put those in so that there'd be a way to charge these. We'll develop more charging system up outside of the park. But the question we have to test is can an electric shuttle run in and out of the park on a charge? And so that's what this first shuttle will do, is help us test that. The experts have all looked at it, come up with numbers and say, yes, it will just fine. And so we believe them, but that might be an interesting first ride, just to be sure. But I want to save time for questions, but I just quickly, that is the purpose. This has a tremendous amount of support from the governor himself, the lieutenant governor, the director of tourism in Utah. They made statements like this is the most important destination development project in the state of Utah right now. And so a lot of support. The reason we're creating this agency or authority is that King County really, we're too small a county to own and operate a shuttle system. It's just, you see this in Salt Lake and these places, even there, it's the same kind of an agency. But this sets it up as an agency with a board that will be appointed, and they would make the decisions on expansion and those kinds of things. So that's the basics. What we did want to do was allow time for questions And hopefully things that I forgot to mention will come out during the questions, but hopefully we have questions and you can just, I don't know how we're gonna do this. How are we gonna do this? Talk loud. How's it? Oh, Kelly's got it. Okay. So please ask your questions that you might have about this system.
Commissioner, I assume, and this is why I'm asking the question, but there will be an opportunity for employment of shuttle bus drivers, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea how many buses will be running yet? Or any more details on that, like the number of employees they'll need to run the system?
The initial order for shuttles, when we do that, we're planning on purchasing 12 shuttles. And so, you know, each one of those would, depending on the hours that they run, but you're probably looking at least 2 drivers per shuttle, plus a little bit on maintenance, and then there's logistics and those kinds of things. So it will create between 25 and 30. One of the things I should point out is that related to, but not directly, Kimsey Gardner Foundation did a study on what impact the East Zion Initiative, all of these things together, the trails, the shuttle, the visitor center, would have on employment in Kane County. And they projected that over a 10-year period, it'd create about 450 jobs. So it does have a significant impact on housing, or I mean on jobs, and provided with that, there will be some housing built up there as well as in other areas of the county. So good question. Got one in the back there, Kelly.
With the shuttles heading between Kanab and the park, are there any road improvements considered for coming in and out of Kanab?
Well, there's 2 answers to that question. One is UDOT has money. It was appropriated by the legislature this last session. So, you know, the beginning of this year, they actually appropriated $10 million for improvements on Highway 9. Most of that will go outside of the park and those areas there. I can tell you that the UDOT plan, which has just recently been presented, calls for developing a 3-lane road from Kanab to Paintage. Now that'll go over a period of several years, but one of the top priorities, I expect we'll see it next year, will be to going up over the sands to make that 3-lane entire distance. And so you'd have passing lanes depending on which side of the road you're going on. So that will greatly enhance that. But yeah, there are improvements that are planned.
For those who are going to ride on
A few of the logistics to work out would be, presumably people would mostly be parking at their motels. Certainly, Kanab City residents would be, you could hop on the shuttle and it would be probably the most convenient, especially if we can drop you off at the end of the main canyon. So you don't have to go down there and wait in line to get on the other shuttle to go up the canyon. But the other part is this will be the headquarters for the shuttle system. So between out front, we're loading and parking in the rear. And so that accommodates between the motels where, Kanab for the most part is small enough. You can leave your vehicle at the motel that you're at and walk to where the bus stops will be. And we still have to determine where those will be.
staying, but they might want to ride the shuttle in.
Yep, absolutely. And they can park right back there. The other thing they can do certainly is with the East Zion Visitor Center that we're building, we'll be building about 8 acres, well, initially 5 acres of parking lot, which is huge. And so there'll be lots of room up there, particularly oversized vehicles. So they could, if they're in the area, they can park up there and hop on the shuttle, and in Kanab, they certainly can do the same. But again, Kanab residents can ride it as well. These will be kind of cool shuttles. They're small. The whole purpose in this, not the whole purpose, but one of the drivers in determining the design of these is to get shuttles that are small enough that they can pass each other in the tunnel. Prior to 2020 with COVID, 19 being what might be considered a normal year, the tunnel free traffic or free-flowing traffic through the tunnel was down to about 16 minutes out of every hour because of oversized vehicles. So once we get the parking up there down here or up at the visitor center and the park very well may restrict the times, the hours of the day that you can drive the oversized vehicles in, and that's probably beneficial to everybody if you do that. Then basically you can hop on the shuttle and go visit the park and leave your big vehicle outside, which will help everyone. We don't know yet, but I think so. The plan is that you don't make enough money off charging fares to pay for it. So there may be a small charge, but if it is, it'll be fairly small. The plan is to do it free, but it depends on finding, sufficient resources to pay for that. We have some things in mind that with the sources that we can use for money, but we don't have all of that worked out yet. Anything else? Dirk, you know about it. You ought to have a few questions, things I failed to mention.
I appreciate your update on that. Thanks for the review.
Okay. Go ahead, no.
One more question would be, what's the capacity of the shuttle? How many passengers?
Still a little bit to be worked on the design. They're probably only going to be about 15, 16 passenger vehicles. They'll be small. Again, I can tell you this, they have to be less than 93 inches in width and less than, I forget the length. But in order to pass each other in the tunnel and make the horseshoe turns without crossing into the other lane. So, right now, the way it is, large vehicles technically shouldn't be allowed on the road because of the switchbacks. It violates federal law, but they're not pushing that right now. But these will be able to pass that. So fairly small. Just one other question related. It depends on things that haven't happened yet. I'm really hoping that we can start in earnest the efforts on the visitor center this November. So, to get this project going. If we receive some of the monies that we feel that we will by the end of October, then we'll be able to start hopefully the design work, finish up the design work starting in November to lead to starting construction next year of the visitor center. Questions or concerns?
So Brent, maybe one question is, how much progress do you think there's been to try to get this shuttle to be able to go up the main canyon?
We rode through the park with the superintendent and a few of his people and designated several spots and brought up the issue of going up the main canyon, and there was kind of a mixed feeling there. It's not imminent, that decision, so I haven't pushed it, but we'll have that discussion, but I feel confident that we'll make that happen. There are probably a couple of people on the staff at the park that are resistant to that, but I think we can make that happen. It makes a lot more sense. There's one in the back there, Kelly, if you.
I apologize if I don't phrase this properly. Where would the energy, where would the power be coming from? That's a lot. And
Yeah.
we work around town is, do we have that much? Are we good?
Yeah, well, I can answer that question. The answer is yes. Now, the bigger answer on is there enough power to electrify every car in America? Absolutely not. But the grid is sufficient to, we've already worked this out with Darkane, who is a supplier in this area, and they have sufficient power. When we designed these chargers in the front and in the rear of this building, they were designed to handle the capacity of these. And up at the park itself, the design that we have for the visitor center will be to handle the capacity of charging up there as well. So that's not a problem for Darkane. They're building up for that and anticipating that and more. So locally, that isn't a problem. It's a national question that's going to have to be asked, but locally we can handle it. Does that answer it? Okay, I'm not out there. We don't have a bunch of squirrels, so I can't guarantee. But Darkane seems to think they've got it covered. They have the energy. Okay, if there are any other questions, great. The other thing is you can reach me through the county, email. Anybody in the county can tell you how to get a hold of me. My email is bchamberlain@king.utah.gov. And I'd be happy to hear from any of you and speak with you about it. Again, this is on the ballot. I think it's the only ballot initiative, and it's proposition number 10. And I certainly encourage you to vote yes on that proposition so we can go forward with this shuttle system. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brent. What Brent did not mention was that he will be driving one of the shuttle buses. You'll get lessons. That's right. This is the inaugural trip. There we go. All right, so we're gonna get rocking and rolling here with our hospital board introductions. And we have 2 spots to fill. We have 5 candidates. And we have Ben Beckstead here and Dr. Stuart Allen. They're going to come up to the podium, and then afterwards I will read a letter from Jeff Mosdell. Jeff could not be here. He asked to be excused this evening as the local funeral director. He had a viewing, so unfortunately he couldn't be here. So Dr. Allen, would you like to start up?
Certainly. My name is Stuart Allen. I moved to Kanab in 1999. 1999, is it working? Right out of optometry school. And I started up cold and I've been here in the area, loving every minute of it. As far as running for the hospital board, I've been asked several times, why are you doing it? And to be honest with you, I don't have a good answer other than I just want to serve. I feel like I've got a lot of experience starting a practice and running it in a small town. I understand the dynamics of Kanab and how to make a business work. And I'm excited with a new hospital administrator coming on with the potential of a lot of new changes. And I would love to be a part of that if you guys will allow that. I'm kind of short on words, so I'm going to call that the end. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name's Ben Beckstead. I've been in Kanab for about 11 years now. I'm a CPA. I have a little tax and accounting business here. I started up that time, and then I am a transplant, but I love it. It's home, and it's where I'm going to die. So I'm happy about that. I've actually been on the hospital board for about 7 years now. I'm currently serving as the chairman on the hospital board, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Much like Dr. Allen said, to begin with, I didn't have a reason. I've been approached by one of the current hospital board members and said, we think we'd like to have someone with your background on. And I said, it's great. I'd be happy to serve. It has become a passion of mine. There's good times and bad times, but it is a good opportunity. So I personally am really excited to see that we have some people running for the seats. I think that's fantastic. And so I welcome that. There are actually, just as a correction, there's 3 seats available right now. Mine, Jeff Mosdell, and Carol Sullivan, who's not here tonight, are the current board members on there. And then Dr. Allen and Joe Houston is another one who is put in his name to run for these seats. So there is a lot going on at the hospital. We did just complete a $15 million remodel. We've just recently hired a new CEO, and we're not heard about that individual will start on October 25th. And so there's a lot of change. We've got 4 new doctors in the last 4 years. We've got 2 new anesthesiologists, CRNAs, who have come to the workforce. And there's a lot of optimism and positive things going forward. And for a town like us, a hospital is just absolutely critical. There is growth coming. We know that's going to happen. We want to be positioned to be able to take care of as many people as we can here and do as much as we can. We realize there's limitations just because of the size we are, and we're trying to do our best to mitigate those. But so there's great opportunity. So I appreciate your support, and I'm just, like I said, grateful for everybody who's running, and anybody's interested in questions on the hospital, they can certainly reach out to me or any board member and bring it to our attention.
Thank you, Ben. Carol Sullivan and Jeff Houston could not be here this evening, and I'm going to read for you a small paragraph written by Jeff Mosdell. As a past member of the hospital board and a current candidate, I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to serve the residents of King County and the nearby communities. I have always felt strong ties to the emergency services and healthcare service in our area. And as an associated business, have enjoyed a close relationship with many, I lost my place, with many of the professionals and volunteers we have had in the past. While serving on various volunteer organizations and as the local funeral director, I have directly faced many of the challenges of the rural healthcare industry. I feel we, as a current board member, have made many positive changes over the past few years, including remodeling the hospital, recruiting new doctors, and hiring a new CEO. I am excited to help with current and hopefully future changes in our EMT and ambulance response coverage in the county that are being addressed, and would like to help work with the new administrator in planning for a positive and vibrant future for King County Hospital. Please consider me for candidacy for one of the board positions for the King County Hospital. Sincerely, Jeff Mosdell. I can be reached with questions or concerns by texting me at 435-691-3694 or my email mosdell@kanab.net. Please allow me a couple of days to respond. So there you go, from Jeff. Okay, audience participation. Just like on Oprah, there's a prize under your seat. Not really, but there are cards on your seat with a pen for you to write down any questions, thoughts, concerns that you may have for the mayoral candidates and for our city council folks. So if you would like to, as we're going through the evening, if you'd like to jot those down, we can pick them up and our lovely Colette Cox will get them all ready to be read out to these folks this evening. Okay? And if you need extras, there's more on other chairs. So, and if you want, you can put your name on them or you can be anonymous. Ominous and anonymous. All right, so here we are, they're fabulous city council candidates. We have Scott Colson, April Crofts, and Chris Heaton. So what we'd like to do is give each candidate 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves to you, the audience, and then we'll jump into questions. And there are rules of engagement. As you notice, I am wearing equal parts red and blue, not black and white. I'm not an umpire. So or a referee. So let's keep to our time and be respectful of one another. There will be a timekeeper for monitoring time limits, but we absolutely want to hear from everybody here, and we want to make sure that your questions are thoroughly answered. The timekeeper will raise a card when the speaker has 15 seconds left, and the card time when the time is lapsed. Upon the time limit expiration, candidates will relinquish the floor. Written questions from the audience will be screened for just clarity and appropriateness. So Jake from State Farm, what are you wearing? No, we want to keep it more to like city business. The people like me who serve as the moderator, interviews, question sorter like Colette. We have no connection with the candidates, so we will be perfectly neutral. So there you go. You ready? All right, let's go. Scott Colson, introductions.
I'm Scott Colson. I've lived in Kanab for, I think, about 15 years now, 16 years. I'm checking with my wife to make sure she'll give me the head nod. So I have family roots that go back a long time here in this community, back to when the pioneers settled this area. I was glad to come back and be able to make this my home. I've been very happy that we've decided that this is where we're gonna be. I've been with Guard King for about 15 years now, and I'm happy to be there. We also have a few small businesses here in the community that my wife and I operate. I have 3 young children. I graduated with an associate's degree in business management from Stone College and have been on the Kanab Planning Commission now for about 4 years and am the chairman of the Planning Commission at this time. And I look forward to having this opportunity to serve the city if I'm elected. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is April Cross, and I'm running for city council. I'm a mother of 3 wonderful girls, and I've lived in Kanab for about 25 years. I love this town and the people in it. My husband Brady and I have been married for 18 years. And married into a wonderful Brown family that have been here for generations and have a local branch. I am not a politician. I'm just a mom running to serve the community, and I want to be a voice for the people in it. I want to preserve our small town values and support our local businesses. I think that's really important. I think our small businesses and ranchers are the backbone of our community. We live in such a beautiful place and are incredibly blessed to live where people come on vacation. My goal is, even though we are growing, we need to stay a community where when times get tough and we got floods like we had a few years ago, we rally together and help each other out like we always have. I'm excited for this opportunity if I'm elected, and just to be a voice for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Heaton. I grew up here in Kanab. I went away for 7 years, went to school, went on a mission, and couldn't wait to get back here. I currently work at Iron Rock Group, and I also run and own a cattle ranch with my father on the Arizona Strip. Heaton, there's a bunch of us. We've been here for a bit. My children will be 7 generations here in Kanab. I love this area with all my heart. Literally, while I lived away, I couldn't wait to get an opportunity to get back here and to get back to the cows and horses and running a ranch. And I took the first opportunity I could to get here, and I haven't looked back. My wife's from Portland, Oregon, so it took a little twisting to get her to come to the desert with me. And I wouldn't be up here tonight without her, and I'm grateful that she supports me in this. And she was here earlier, but she did leave. And she's 38 weeks pregnant. So if I get up and walk out of here, there's a really good reason. So it's close. We're at any minute. But really, I've been on the Planning Commission, similar to Scott, for the last 4 years. 2 of those years, I was the chair of that commission. So I really got to understand and get to know Kanab City and the role of government. One thing real quick, I'm running out of time, but one thing that I think is real important. When I worked, so after I graduated college, I went and did an internship with Representative Noel at the state legislature. And I understood then at that time that politicians are a phone call away. And if elected, I will be that phone call away. Thank you.
Guys, good job. Now, are we ready for the lightning round? Don't get nervous. Oh, he's got his own comment, don't worry. So we had some questions come in for city council. And what I'm going to do is ask you all, when I read the question, if you just raise your hand if you'd like to answer, pick up the mic and answer. And if someone else feels like they would like to answer behind you, just go in order like that. Give everyone an opportunity if you'd like, okay? All right. So we had asked for questions prior to this, as you all know, and in addition to more questions here, so no one feels left out. And one thing I do have to do is say, hello everyone in Zoom and Facebook land. There are 50 people in that tiny little box on Sabrina's table, and they are watching this live. So my concern, of course, is, you know, the camera adds 20 pounds. So she's just worried, like, how many cameras are on me, right? We gotta keep it light, right? Love you guys. Okay, you guys ready? All right. What will you do differently, if anything, to address the housing crisis, including homelessness, than the approach current council has taken? Do not my questions. Okay, Scott.
So I think this is one of the most consistent questions that I hear is how are we gonna handle and solve the housing crisis? And I think for me, one of the most important things for me to weigh out is the role and responsibility of government and how the government should interact in that process. It's easy to think of solutions and to think of ways to solve the problem, but it's difficult to find ways that the government should be part of that solution. So on Planning Commission, I know we constantly roll this issue around, we constantly see this. We constantly hear feedback about why was this subdivision approved when there's no low-cost housing or no affordable housing. And I think it's important to remember that the government's job isn't to bring these projects. The government isn't sponsoring these projects. The government isn't doing these projects. We are simply taking the current ordinances and the current laws that we have thought out and put before these projects and in this time, and seeing how these projects apply to those ordinances. And then we hopefully can create ordinances that are good and beneficial for the whole community.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
That's a great answer, Scott. I think right now with what's happening currently, right now, there are 100 units that are going to be going in Kanab City, at least 100 units. There's several lots and subdivisions that have been approved recently, and all of that is going to help with our housing crisis that we're facing. As more units become available, the prices will go down for the existing units and the current units, and that we will have more affordable housing. That is economics, and I believe it'll work, and I think it is working. As we get more and more units and houses available, we will have more housing.
Yes, I believe that more government. I'll just talk loud. I don't think more government is never the answer. I think maybe encouraging developers to build maybe different types of development, so we have housing for younger kids that are starting out. We want to keep our young kids here. We need roots to stay in here, stay in Kanab. That's what makes Kanab special. So more government's never the answer, though. It's maybe just encouraging different types of developments to come in.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so this is kind of a dovetail into that question, and it says with continued residential expansion, should we be able to carry forward with that in Kanab and a new larger retirement community coming? What do you believe is the best plan to expand infrastructure in order to support the growth? For example, would it be fire, police, healthcare, et cetera? How do you propose that we expand along with those needs?
It's a tough question, especially for a growing community. We're going to have a lot of growing pains as we grow. So as more subdivisions and developments come in, it's going to be a race to keep up. We heard from the hospital board tonight, they're working on what they're doing from their end to keep up. Our police department, I think, is doing an excellent job. We're training new officers. We're building up so that we can keep up. but with growth comes all those pains. With a 501 recently approved subdivision just on the eastern edge of town, there will be some pains with that, but it will come in phases. It's not going to happen overnight. I believe there's 16 phases in that subdivision, and it's going to take a few years to build out. So we have time to prepare and plan, and that's what, as if elected, that's one of the things I would really work on, is that we have a good plan as we move forward. I really feel that our current city council and mayor have done a great job with that. And they're not perfect by any means. And I won't be perfect, but we'll give it our all.
Thank you, Chris. Scott?
In the last debate, we had a brief opportunity to share a little bit about what we thought. And one of the things that I still believe and shared in that meeting was that we live in a wonderful place. We have really good services available to us. When we did the impact fee study, the engineering firm does something and they measure the level of service in our community. And we're very blessed to live in Kanab. We have very high level services. And so there are things that need work. There are imperfections. There are roads that need attention. There are water systems that need improved. There are sewer issues that need to be improved. But overall, I think we're doing a very good job as a city to provide for our citizens the services that they need. And we're working really hard to do that. And I think just continuing to improve upon that and build upon that is something that we need to strive to. But I think it's also important for residents to be grateful and look around and be thankful for what a wonderful community we live in. So I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Thank you. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna move this. So you guys can see. I like that. Instead of hearing the voice. Oh. Okay, we have 2 more questions for these guys, and like I said, make sure you write down any additional questions you have. Question number 3 is, what can be done to address the we versus them? That's a big question. The Kanab persons who are from Kanab versus the Kanab persons who live in Kanab. Question number 4. Not just kidding.
I'll go with that. I think that is a concern, but I don't think it's a big of issue as I think we play it out to be. I really don't. The involvement that I have in this community and when everyone comes together, looking around this room right now, I see people that have lived here for a long time and I see people that have lived here for a year or so. And I know several of you. And I don't think there's this big, great divide. If there was one, it's not as crazy as we think it is. Being a divide, I grew up here in Kanab, Utah, a rancher, a cattle rancher. My wife's from Portland, Oregon. That's a pretty big difference. And we've obviously made it work, and I convinced her somehow to move to the desert. But she doesn't see the divide, this we versus them. And she is a quote unquote an outsider. But I think community involvement, I think being friendly with everyone. One thing about this town that I think makes it great is the people. And it's all the people. It's those that have lived here for generations, and it's those that moved here yesterday.
Thank you.
I agree. We live in an awesome community. And like I said, I've lived here for 25 years. So I've seen lots of people come and go. I worked at pharmacy for 16 years for the original owners and Joyce Bush, and for the new owners, Dave and Kelly Shakespeare. And I do the mail also, and I see all people. I don't think it's a big issue. That's what makes Kanab so great.
Kind of piggybacking on my earlier comments, again, I think all of us just taking a step back and looking at the wonderful place we live in and measuring our 2020 against a lot of the other places last year. You know, we had a wonderful year. We had a wonderful community that stayed together and stayed strong. there was obviously some issues, but I feel like for the most part, we handled those respectfully and peacefully, and I think that's very important. I think having that perspective and that gratitude is important, and also understanding that there are going to be some differences and celebrating those differences, recognizing them, and also appreciating the things that we have in common. Often we have a lot more in common than we do differences, but we focus so much on those differences that we forget those common points that we have. So I think it's important as we go forward as a community to continue to care about, love our neighbors, be grateful for them, and appreciate who they are and what they do, even if we disagree with some of the things that they may believe. We're still neighbors. We're all still here as a community, and we're all pretty blessed.
Thank you very much. And we have one final question from this list of 4, and that is, what do you believe is the most pressing issue facing the city council over the next 4 years? Go ahead, Scott.
I think land use is obviously going to be one of the larger issues facing Kanab City. Most of our other issues are pretty minor. We have some, but they're pretty minor comparatively. I think land use is going to be one of the most impactful issues, and how we choose to address that and look at that. I believe that less regulation instead of more regulation is going to be beneficial in our future. That remembering that what makes Kanab special is liberty and freedom, not regulation, not what neighborhoods look like, not a government telling people what they can do. It's the very opposite of that. That is, we encourage our citizens to, hold freedom and liberty above other things, even if that means we sacrifice in other areas, that those things will be most important, that we continue to focus on those principles and values that help found this community. So I think land use is the biggest issue, and I will strive to make sure that we handle it in a responsible way, with government interference being a necessary evil, to quote some of the founding fathers, that it will not be something that we do lightly, that we will be thoughtful and only do it when absolutely necessary for the health, safety, and welfare of the members of this community.
Excellent, thank you. April, Chris?
I agree with Scott. Land use is going to be a big concern in the next 4 years. Another thing that I think that goes hand in hand with that is improving our infrastructure to keep up with the growth. And I currently think the current city council and the mayor have done an outstanding job in setting the groundwork for that. We've got the 2 new big water tanks that they put up on the hill recently, and those are needed. We really need those, and that costs a lot of money, but the city worked really hard at getting some grants to help secure about half of the cost for that, which I think we're all grateful for. They put in over 2 miles recently of new main water lines in this town. And I think if we continue to chip at those things and improve, right now they're getting ready to chip seal several of the roads. We've seen that. But I think as we improve our infrastructure and continue to plan and prepare for the growth that will come, I think that's a big part of it. And that's the role of our city. That's the role of government. That's what we're asked to do. And if elected, I would work hard to continue to do that and to do so fiscally conservative.
Thank you, Chris.
So I haven't been on the city planning and zoning, and so I would like to welcome any suggestions or ideas from, I think we need a lot of community involvement. I think the infrastructure is really important, and thank our sheriffs and our police officers on how wonderful job in our fire department for the size of our town. So just more, I think we need more community involvement.
Okay, Tara's getting more instructions. Thank you guys very much. And I'm gonna ask you to stay right here as we discussed previously for all of the questions everyone is feverishly writing down this very moment. Want to thank Ron and Claudia. They will be the hunters and the gatherers for those cards. So when you're ready, just hold them up and I'll get them from you. I was thinking more like tennis ball retreat, no? Okay, so Jeff, Mr. Lonely Guy over there, all by himself. So I have a little card here that says we would like to respectfully excuse Colton Johnson this evening because he is coaching the junior varsity game. So, Jeff, would you like to do your intro and then field all these really cool questions I have?
My name is Jeff Yates. I'm running for Kanab City Mayor. I think it's kind of funny that we all say how long we've lived in Kanab. I've lived here 25 years. I got here because of my wife that I met in college. And decided to come down here for some opportunity. I've been able to run my own business for that period of time. It's been a great experience. 3 children. One has been able to return here, and I have another that's in college, and I have one that's in elementary school. So we have a nice family. I have been on the planning and zoning for 4 years, the city council for 6. So a lot of decisions that have been made have been a part of those, for good or bad, and bear some responsibility for some of those. I would like to vote for mayor. I believe I have the qualifications that'll help me manage the staff of the city and set the agenda for what Kanab is going to, what we're moving towards, and what I think we should do over the next 4 years.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, we're just gonna cut right to the chase here, because here's a goodie. Oh, I'm straight from the locker room. Colton, I'm so glad you could make it. Thank you. Boy, talk about perfect timing. Would you please introduce yourself, and then we'll have you guys field some questions.
Sure. Thanks, Roy. I'm Colton Johnson. Is this? Okay. My breath. You know me from last time I introduced myself last time.
Colton, if you don't mind, I wanted to say we have folks, about 50 people that are online listening. So if you could hold the mic just a bit closer. Yeah, because it's difficult for them to hear. You're coming through Sabrina's camera there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks. The reason I wanted to run for mayor is because I see some things that I think can be fixed. Otherwise, I wouldn't put myself through all of this. I've lived here most of my life, except when I've left to go to college. Family's been here a lot of generations. Some of the priorities that I have is to keep families and local families a priority. They've got to come first. I'd like to see slow and responsible growth. We're not going to have a small town feel if we're not a small town. We can't have your cake and eat it too. We're not going to have small town feel in a big city. You just ain't. We can't control a lot of that, but we can do some things, and we can try. We can't lose agriculture. When we lose agriculture, we're going to lose the rural feel that we love, and growth will come more as we lose all the fields that when people sell their farm, it's going to development. No one's going to buy it to farm. Those are kind of some of the main reasons that I'm running. I'd like to see infrastructure be improved. The police department needs a new building to house them. You should see what they work in. I got 15 seconds, but those are some of the main reasons that I'm running. Thanks.
Thank you, Colton. Okay, so we have a few questions that had come in prior to, wow, nicely stacked here. So we'll get to those afterwards, but we're going to address these first. One of them is, what leadership strengths do you bring to the mayor's office? And you guys can decide and take turns who answers first, who answers second. Just FYI, if there is a rebuttal or you feel like there is, something you want to say, in addition to what your competitor, I guess is to say, then they will get also equal amount of time. So, does that make sense to you? Okay, cool. All right, so you guys play nice.
All right, I feel like I've been in leadership positions, before I ever started teaching as I, sold pest control. I'm on a mission, I coach football teams, I've coached basketball, I've been part of successful teams. And where I work is a really professional environment, it's an awesome environment, I've seen what success looks like. And I've never felt uncomfortable, I felt safe, I've seen what a good culture looks like. And I feel like I can help bring a professional culture to the city administration and help guide that. That's an area that I think can be improved. I'm organized. I'm a good listener and I can communicate well with people and I consider what's being said and I'm thoughtful about it. I stay up. It keeps me up at night until I feel like I can figure out the right decision to make.
I've had the opportunity to run my own successful business for the last 25 years here in Kanab. And I've been involved in the city government for 10 years. I think one of the strengths that I can bring to the city is I understand the roles of the staff, how they work and some of their challenges. I've got the ability, owning my own business, that I can arrange my schedule, that I can, be available to run the city during the day. I believe that I have the ability to, with being in the city for as long as I have the ability to start running things efficiently from day one. And I think that will help us move forward quicker with some of the challenges that we have.
Thank you, guys. Interestingly enough, this is a nice question to come right behind that. And it's, what do you believe from the city perspective is the best approach to addressing the staffing challenges being faced by businesses in Kanab? It's more of a follow-up for the lack of housing and workforce training, which are major contributing factors to local staffing challenges. How would you use your position as mayor to positively impact those two issues?
That's a long question.
It is a long question, and it's basically, I guess it would have to be that chicken egg situation we're living in with workforce and housing, and can't get people here because there's no housing, but then, once you get them, where are they gonna go?
There is no magic bullet to snap your fingers and have housing built. So I think the things that the city's tried to do over the last 4 or 5 years and planning and zoning is you need to create an environment where that housing can be built. Right now, as Chris said earlier, there is nearly 100 units that most of them are multifamily units that are being constructed in the city. Those take a while to plan, to fund, to get approved. People have to buy the property, they have to go through the process, and then they have to build them. As far as attracting a workforce, there has to be, obviously, there's a lot of jobs for them to do. I think that is a challenge everywhere in the country right now. I don't think that's a problem unique to us. But I think the business community is trying to solve that problem by building houses and housing, and I think we'll have to see how that plays out when those units are online.
Yeah, it looks like housing is on the way. Now you just have to have jobs that allow people to afford to live in a house. Tourism has provided some good jobs. It might start to cave in on itself, maybe, if we can't diversify the economy. Well, we've seen it do that. I don't know how you diversify the economy. We can look at what other communities are doing. We can make sure that we don't chase away opportunities. To diversify it, there's gotta be jobs that provide salary that let people live in a home. And as far as the housing market goes, that's a hard thing to fix, but developments here and houses are on the way. As far as staffing and stuff, I know that the county has had surveys, like through the SEBA program, where they work with companies. They say what we need, we work with SWATC, to try to help get training. So there's a lot of that going on. Housing is kind of a big hurdle.
All right, so we have 2 more questions, and then we're gonna have a little trivia while we get the rest of the questions in here, and then I have the questions from the audience, okay? So, speaking of business, are there businesses that you think Kanab should recruit into our community?
Yeah, I mean, if we can recruit some industry, then we've got to do it. I don't know what's realistic or what's not, but we got to have an open mind. Whether it's a turkey farm or a pig farm or some technology, or to house a technological company, we've got to have an open mind. We've got to look at other communities and see what they're doing. Work with the League of City, that Utah League of Cities and Towns. I hope I said that right. But there's just a lot of resources to look at, and we can. There's a lot of resources and people in the county and in the city. We got to work with the county too, but and the counties around us on bringing industry here. They want the same thing. I think up in Painless, they're looking for the same thing. In this whole 5-6 county area in southern Utah, they're looking for that same answer to the same problem.
Thank you.
I believe that, any business that is considering moving can actively recruit them. But I think just as important is there needs to be a lot of support for the businesses that are here. Kind of as an example, sales tax revenue between 2019, 2020 and 2020 to 21 has grown 14% in the city. And the resort tax, which is a tax, sales tax that we can collect, for one of few cities that do that, that's gone up another 12%. I think probably the biggest problem we have is the existing businesses we have. We need to create a climate that people can live there, can live here and work there, and be successful.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So one little question to wrap this package up is how will you encourage the strengthening and enforcement of city regulations to make businesses, tenants, and homeowners keep their property in good, clean condition? I didn't write the question.
I'll ask you, you can ask it again, maybe.
Well, I think that, and I'm gonna do, a little crying, but y'all are my people. You remember Carmen. I think that there's always been a bit of a push-pull in town about, keeping things looking a certain way that's inviting to folks visiting. And I'm not saying one way or the other that we yes or no, but this is definitely a question that was given to us by your constituents out there.
If we're doing really well anywhere, I think we're doing pretty well there. It looks good. Drive through the main street of other similar small towns and look at it. When you get off their main streets, they're doing pretty good. So sometimes we got a little bit of a facade there maybe, but God, we've got a lot. We've got some restrictions. We've got light restrictions. We've got stuff for signs. We got to have trees. And sometimes the trees block the signs, they look nice, but I don't think that makes it easier because that was in the question, I think, how do we make it easier? But then we talked about having more restrictions to make it easier.
I think it's more about strengthening the enforcement of the
I
regulations.
think we're doing pretty good on that. I'm good on, I answered it.
Okay, got it.
I think everybody needs to be involved with one of those enforcement actions. The way the city works right now is unless there is a complaint, there is no city person going out looking for violations. And when there is a complaint, it is followed up on. And if there is merit to that complaint, which there isn't sometimes, a citation is issued and then fines are levied. But at the same time, it is usually a pretty long legal process in order to do that. And it is, I don't think we have the appetite to hire an enforcement division to go after those things. And so I would encourage people, if they have problems with what's happening around them, to first talk to your neighbors, and then they can't make a formal complaint and move through that process.
Thank you. All right, here we go. You all have spoken. So have you folks. I'm gonna go to one of those guys. This is Tom Dillon on Facebook. And he says many seniors have to go to St. George or Cedar City for medical appointments. Does the city have any plans to coordinate transportation for seniors to medical appointments as a service? And this is open to all candidates, should you choose to respond.
There is no plan.
Okay. April, do you have a plan? I know I'm picking on you, I just thought it was fun.
I don't know, there is not a plan that I'm aware of, but one thing that I really like about this community is we don't rely on the government to do that. I know several seniors in this town that get rides over to Hurricane or St. George on a weekly basis from members in this community who step up and take care of each other. And I think that that's what makes this community great, is because the people are doing that and we're not having the government handle that for us.
Thank you, Chris. And that was seconded. Anyone else? Nope, we're good. Okay, let's go on Facebook just one more time, because you know, they don't get the ambiance of the room. All they get is us up here, and I'm telling you, it's looking pretty stark. We don't even a backdrop. We need a video or something. Okay, for all candidates, Joe Stewart, hi Joe, on Facebook, I don't know Joe. Do you think vacation rentals should be better regulated? Ooh, use the hot button. My neighborhood in Old Town Kanab is more than 50% vacation rentals. Do you think vacation rentals should be limited in numbers? I could feel you from here. Oh, Cole's gonna go first.
Tom and Joe are my neighbors, so howdy neighbors. I think she asked, should it be limited? Is that what she asked?
Do you think vacation rentals should be limited in number?
Yeah, that's my neighborhood. There's a lot of vacation rentals. It changes the feel. For sure, we lose that small town feel, but then you're juggling once again, and we're gonna always, this might be the biggest juggle that we're always gonna have is private property rights. With zoning and planning, vacation rentals, and it's a tricky answer. And people keep bringing it up. So I think we ought to keep talking about it. I think there's a lot of people that would just wish that we just shut up about it, but we can't do that if it's still something that's being talked about. If we're representatives of the citizens, then we got to at least keep talking about it, figuring it out. I know it's been talked about a lot, but it's still an issue that keeps coming up. So I'm willing to listen and keep searching for answers. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think we need to just say that we're not gonna try and default to, you know, there's a reason that we have zoning planning, there's a reason we have government. It's to say what's allowed and what's not allowed, what we wanna allow and what we don't want to allow. That's the bottom line. To kind of control that a little bit. So there's things that we can do, we just gotta figure out if we wanna do it and if it's worth it, and if we're crossing the line constitutionally and stuff.
Thank you. Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, this is one of those questions that I hear quite a bit. And in interest of full disclosure, my wife and I actually own vacation rental here in Kanab and have done really well with it. We've been very glad that we've had it. Ours is a little different, but one of the things that I think is important to continue, like Colton said, to listen to input. We've listened to this and we've batted this around. This is not an issue that is new. This is not an issue that people are taking lightly. This is something that, you know, I have personally spent hours trying to think of a solution, trying to think of something that I would support. I've heard a lot of proposals for regulation. And I would love to hear more, but there has been nothing yet that I have heard that I think would be beneficial to the members of this community in a fair way for the government to impose upon. There's no health, safety, or welfare concerns that I believe the government would be positively impacting by regulating this at this time. Most of the concerns will pick some winners and pick other losers. And I don't believe that's the role of government, to pick winners and losers within our community on this issue. And so at this point, I haven't heard any regulation that I would support.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else? April?
I know this is a big issue, but I do not believe the role of government. I believe the role of government is to protect your rights. I don't believe the role of government is to tell you what you can and not do with your personal property.
Thank you. Chris?
And I agree with pretty much everything that has been shared on this question. Just real quick, I have an Airbnb 2 doors down from me. And knock on wood, but I have had 0 problems with them in the last 2 or 3 years that they've been there. And I really enjoy them there, meeting the new people coming to the area. I love to talk to people. I love to know what people are doing, why they chose Kanab, and I love them to get to know my kids. They're out riding their bikes in the street and stuff, and I think that's great. It's good for my kids to meet people from all over the world. Growing up here in Kanab, when I first left Kanab and went to bigger cities, I was shell-shocked. I served a mission in Africa. That was a big shell shock for me. And so I love that my kids have the opportunity growing up in this town of Kanab to meet people from all over this country and the world.
Thank you, Chris.
I think a question we always have to ask is what's the right amount of anything? And I don't know if the city is actually the right people to make that up. I do believe in market economies, and I believe that that will regulate itself. There will be vacation rentals that are desirable, and there are rules that exist. If there are vacation rentals that are problem properties, then there's a system to revoke those licenses. We've had far more complaints on long-term rentals with zoning problems and enforcement problems than we have on short-term rentals, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Jeff. For the mayor candidates, many in our community find themselves with food and housing insecurity. How do you plan to address this issue as a city to give residents a hand up as they get on their feet?
There's some definitions that I struggle with, and the one that is batted around a lot is affordable housing. Whenever that's batted around to me, I ask the question, tell me what you think affordable housing is. So, I'd like to have some kind of goal of what we're shooting for. If affordable housing is a 2-bedroom apartment or a house on 3/4 of an acre that costs $500 a month, I think that should sell. When I was in college in the mid-90s, I was paying that much for a 1-bedroom apartment then. Housing is being built right now. I believe the best thing to do if you want a gradient of housing is you make more available. And I think it'll naturally, there'll be housing that's expensive, there'll be housing that's medium priced, there'll be housing on the lower end of the scale. I think those are happening. Food insecurity, there are organizations that already exist that help with that. The county has Care and Share. Several religious organizations have those things, and I would encourage people to take advantage of those options.
Jeff kind of said everything, I think we're on the same page with this one. We kind of have everything that there is to support that. With the food, we've got, like you said, Care and Share, religious organizations. And then, with the housing, we just gotta have jobs for people, and if there's not a job, then I guess that sometimes you just can't afford to live in a place. We want to make Kanab a more affordable place to live in. We have to find a way to do it. And I keep coming back to diversifying the economy, and I think that's got to be a focus, and we've got to look at what other communities are doing and being willing to talk to them. We can't chase anything away. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 4 questions left. And the lightning round question. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. This is your last call for getting any more questions out to Claudia and Ron. Going once. Bitter. No, good. We're good? Okay, you have some time, but I'm just saying, we're going to be wrapping it up shortly. So they want to get those questions out, give them some burning. It's going to get out there. Okay, so I have a question for the city council candidates. Do you see any concerns about water use and availability in Kanab's future?
I think that there could be a concern in the future. Thanks, Matt. I think there could be a concern, but right now there isn't one. From what we're seeing with the city's wells, the water is staying at the levels that they have been. The city currently, what is it, what's the canyon? West Fork, up on the north end of, north of Kanab. The city's currently doing a project right now to develop more wells and to get more water available. Now, I still think we need to conserve as a farmer here in Kanab. Being with the Kanab Irrigation Company as well, we've conserved a lot of water this year. Our reservoir is doing really well. We're about 15% more right now in our reservoir this time right now than we were last year. So I think in general, our community has done a great job to conserve when we need to. Right now, though, I think we're in a good place. I think the city government has done an excellent job in preparing for this growth and for the droughts that we're experiencing.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else?
I just think if everyone as a community just kind of watch, we know that it hasn't rained a ton, so just if everyone waters conservatively, and sounds like we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Chris did a really good job summing up what the city has done in the past to make sure that we're in a good situation now. They have made some really smart decisions and done things that have really been beneficial to us. Obviously, there's no absolute security when it comes to water. I mean, we're drawing water out of aquifers that there's just no guarantee will be there forever. We hope that they'll stay intact and stay the way they are. And we're making decisions based on the best information that we have right now. And as that information changes, hopefully we continue to make good decisions. But with the information we have now, we're doing really well. And the impact fee service study again showed that Kanab is pumping well below its rate, its available rate, and doing really well. So as of now, I think our growth is fine and we have plenty of water available.
Thank you. Okay, Colton.
You have a question addressed specifically to you from our audience, one of our audience members. You keep talking about keeping Kanab small. What is your plan for dealing with growth?
It's gotta start, I guess, at zoning and planning. We can't control, obviously, it's unrealistic you can't control everything, change happens. But I think there's things we can try to do in zoning and planning to maybe, I don't know about slow, but just make sure we're being responsible about it, and it's the kind of growth that we want. Zoning and planning is like I said, is to control what we'll allow and what we won't allow. And everyone is eventually gonna become a hypocrite at some point with the private property rights bill. When it's in their backyard, all of a sudden, everyone's gonna run into it. It's gonna come around and get you one day. And when we look at our general plan, I know there are a lot of people that want high residential, they want that to be the baseline or whatever. I don't know about that. I'd like to preserve the agriculture. I like more low density rather than high density. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. I don't think that we can put a 40-unit Verbo building. That's a hotel in the middle of town. That's a hotel. That's commercial. Yeah, you can get the zone change, and people have kind of said, "Oh, everyone thinks these zones are just decreed, by God." No, they were decreed by the city council and the zoning and planning committee. We know that, and we know that they can change, but we want them to kind of be where they are. That we're the ones saying that's what we would like it to be zoned as, and we want it to be zoned that way for a reason. Or else we're just going to kind of sell us down the river. Money can't make every decision all the time. I don't know. I chose to be a teacher and live in Kanab when I could have done a lot of things and made a lot of money other places.
Colton, could you?
I know it is. But sometimes you got to make a sacrifice to keep the way of life that you want. Our family's got something very valuable that we could just make the money decision. But I've seen sacrifice after sacrifice to keep a way of life. And that's in my blood, and that's what I want to do with the city. Thanks.
Thank you. Very interestingly enough, lots of work there. There was a follow-up question to the city council of how important do you feel the zoning ordinance in Kanab are? Do you see a need to enforce them? It was a very interesting balance of questions this evening. For whoever wrote this, do you feel satisfied? If not, jump up and down. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, do you feel that it was adequately answered, or should we continue on with zoning enforcements?
So you're asking that something, right?
Yeah.
What was the question?
The question is, how important do you feel the zoning ordinances are? Do you see a need to enforce them?
So I'll answer that. From my perspective, I think zoning is important, but often what we see is that zoning is a snapshot in time of what people want, but isn't necessarily going to happen. Often it's the market that drives that, and the zoning is just a hope that this is what we can do to control it in a positive way, but really the market will dictate whether that happens in that order or not, because the zoning doesn't matter if there's not a developer willing to buy that land for that price and do that project. And so I think zoning needs to be flexible. Again, less regulation creates a better situation for developers. I think we should become more flexible. Historically, cities have shown that, the traditional zoning model of high density here, commercial here, low density here, medium density here, over time becomes a problematic issue. You centralize your poverty and you centralize your lower income families while you put your higher income and your more prosperous families with more power and more influence outside, and then it just exacerbates itself over time. So I think we need to be more willing to diversify ourselves in zoning and look at more creative options instead of a strict zone-based approach.
Thank you. Anyone else on council? This is for council only. You've got other stuff coming up. I promise.
I think the zoning that's currently, I mean, if it's a current zoning, it needs to be enforced, but I don't think that there should be, I think it should be flexible, and you need to follow property right owners and get community input. And it's late. It's late.
Thank you, April.
So I agree with a lot of what both of these guys said. It's tricky. It really is tricky. Being on the planning commission for the last 4 years, I've seen a lot of zone changes come through, a lot of recommendations that we've given to the city council. Some of them I've struggled with more than others, because I didn't feel that it was right to be there, or because we had a lot of members of the public come out. And I'll tell you, when you're sitting on one of those boards and the room is full of people that say, we don't want this in our backyard, that's a hard thing to do, is to recommend that. And I've done that because I feel it's best for the city, and I feel it's best for the property owner who's requesting that zone change. But those have been hard decisions that I've made. Some of those have been in friends and family of mine's backyard. But I feel that it fits the general plan of the city, which we work on all the time, which the planning commission is there for, which we request the public's input in, and we have received some of that. And so we have a plan, and we try and follow it the best we can.
Thank you, Chris. I am going to extend this one over to the mayoral candidates. Because I think this is not just a burning issue for the council, but this is also an opportunity to see, you know, how these guys feel about this. And Colton definitely has some thoughts. And Jeff.
I would have some of the blame on the zoning, being involved with city council and planning and zoning for the last 10 years. Everybody always wants to preserve what exists. You know, like we want to preserve agriculture. And I think you need to be really careful, because if you zone that something has to stay agriculture in perpetuity, yeah, it may feel like we're protecting the people who live in the city to keep things the way they are, but you're also taking away the property rights from that family to be able to sell their property for their highest and best use. I think Kanab City's been responsibly zoned. We've been trying to be accommodating for what people want to do in their properties. We've granted some and we've denied some, but I think I would stay on the course that we are.
Thank you, Jeff. Colton.
Yeah, it's just sometimes I don't feel like some things do fit. I guess that's what the mayor does. They can appoint people to the zoning and planning committee. So that's one way I could help there be slow and reasonable growth, is try to get people there that are like-minded. And then kind of going back to that other one, how can you slow it down? How can you preserve agriculture? I know you can't have those people in perpetuity. That's a tongue twister. Perpetuity. I'm gonna give up on that. Yeah, perpetuity, thanks. To preserve agriculture, people have to be able to. We can't have them have to sell the farm because they can't afford to keep the farm. Or we don't want them to say, well, I don't really like it here anymore and I'm going to leave. Those are two things that can preserve agriculture. So back to diversifying the economy and kind of trying to preserve our heritage and bring in the demographics that are similar to us. People won't want to leave. People will be able to afford to have jobs that can supplement the farm. That's a great way to preserve agriculture and slow growth. Yeah, thanks.
True. Okay, I have one more question for our mayoral candidates. I have one question for all. I have a lightning round question for all. And then I might ask one about the golf course, depending on how I feel. Okay, so this is from Christian Mosdell on Facebook to the mayor candidates. As Kanab has grown, the demands of the mayoral office, has increased. Our current mayor spends approximately 4 hours per day in the office and more if needed. Are you going to be able to spend the time necessary to do the job?
Yes, I'll be able to spend the time necessary. I don't know that they really are there 4 hours a day, but I will be able to spend the time necessary and maybe be a little more efficient so I don't have to spend 4 hours a day. We have a city manager. We have a lot of people there to help get the job done, but yeah, I have time.
Thank you.
The city's run during the day. Okay, people are at work during the day, the city staff works during the day. Where I'm flexible, or I own my own business, I can arrange my schedule such that I can do the things that need to be done in the mayor's office during the day. And I've had that responsibility as the pro tem at times, and I can handle those responsibilities as they come up.
Thank you, both of you. This is for the council and the mayor candidates. With a new elementary school being built, there will be a need for road improvements, such as a wider width, new surfaces on Powell and Kanab Creek roads with bicycle lanes and walking lanes, maybe a stoplight. Have you given any thoughts about those needs?
Yes. A couple things that are happening right away that we've been working on for a long time. First, finally, 1100 South is going to be aligned with Kanab Creek Drive. We had a property owner that we were having a hard time acquiring the property. That's been done. The problem we have is what we'd want that to look like. We only have so wide a right of way on both Powell and Kanab Creek Drive. I believe there's a solution there. What I would rather see than a walking path next to the road is to have it separated somewhat to keep kids away directly from the road because of the width of the road and so forth. We are working on some of those plans. There are engineering as of yet, but that's something that they hope to get done in the next 6 months.
Thank you.
Is this just for mayoral candidates or?
This is for everyone. Well, I definitely know there would need to be new infrastructure right there. I used to live on that corner of Kanab Drive. And for the school to be right there, there definitely needs to be a wider road and sidewalks for the kids to make it safe because that's a busy road. And I think a stoplight probably would be a good idea. Thank you. Anyone else? Bueller? Okay. Since we're all in the mood for some fun tonight. Okay. Price Waterhouse. Since y'all are in the mood for a little fun, here's a question before the lightning round and the wrap up from each candidate. What is your stance on the proposed golf course? What can the city contribute to reduce pollution and protect the planet's ozone layer? Dang, it's a lot. Why don't we just go with the golf course for now? The golf course is a hot button item for our folks and for all of us. It's been a lot of back and forth on social media, so it will be interesting to hear everyone's take on this. So I'm proposing that we just start here and we just go down the line. Thank you.
So with the golf course, I think for me, what's important is understanding again, Kanab City's role and responsibility in it. This is not something that Kanab City has been asked to necessarily share in the cost of. We have been potentially invited to the seat of how this is managed and how it will be administered. And so I would hope that Kanab City, if this project does go through, will be involved in that. I think whether or not the Conservancy has the right to use their water shares to water a golf course is again, a private property issue. This is their water shares that they personally own. And this is a market decision that they're making with land that they're potentially buying. So I think these are issues that aren't Kanab City as a government. It's not our responsibility to answer them. And hopefully we can be involved in the management and administration of it if it is a project that goes through. And I think we should also answer the climate and the ozone question, because that seems like an easier one. Right?
Touche.
That seems like one that's less heated and there's less issues, so.
Yeah, so from my understanding, it's not a city council issue right at the moment. I think we need to get, if it's using private wells, we need to get, if it's a private property issue, maybe for the water rights, it sounds like, we need to get, maybe we need to talk to the community more and see, get some more resident feedback on if this is something we want in our town.
This is a great question. So I currently sit on the Kanab Irrigation Board as well. And those water rights, the water shares that the Conservancy District has for this golf course are part of the Kanab Irrigation Company. The Conservancy District does own the shares. They can do with those shares as they see fit. I own shares in the irrigation company, and I really don't want anyone telling me what I can and can't water with those shares. With regards to Kanab City and their role, there's a lot of rumors or discussion on social media, but I haven't seen anything in concrete. I haven't seen any agreements. And so until we have more facts about the project and the role Kanab City will make with that project, I won't answer anymore.
Thank you.
Last month, the county put out a statement about the golf course. My understanding is that it is a water conservancy project, and they got a loan approved through CIP. And the payback of that loan would be some agreement between them and King County. Kanab City is not part of that agreement, or we've been asked to be part of that agreement. There are some things that have to happen in order for the golf course to happen. One is a SIDLA sale, and I believe the results of that is in sometime in October or November. I have not seen the agreement on what they would ask of Kanab City. If I had any input, if it does indeed happen, I would hope that the golf course would not be just for visitors, that it would be for use of Kanab City residents, and would like to understand what they would like Kanab City's role to be in that.
Thank you, Jim.
So as everybody's explained, the city doesn't have a lot to do with it. But as a citizen of Kent County and a member, citizen of Kanab, I mean, that's in Kent County, we all are impacted by tourism. If they want some of this money, I'm getting my information from an article in the newspaper, not social media, but it was written by Neil Brown. They wanted to get TRT money to help pay for the golf course, lots of like up to 12 million potentially, which is a lot. And as a Kanab citizens, our way of life is affected by tourism. That's where the TRT money comes from. And that also proves that we can use that TRT money for things like this. So I just would like to see it used for other things. I've talked about maybe lights on the baseball field, that coming from the county, from that TRT money, or gyms, or a golf course that is more geared toward the locals and the youth could afford to golf. I love golf. There's some little towns that have great golf courses. This one doesn't seem like one of those, so.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to combine the last two questions. Because the last one, we're here, in the home stretch. And then afterwards, each one of our candidates will be given, they have their tables set up and you can go visit with them and have some time with them. Each candidate here gets a 3-minute final wrap up. And I'm encouraging you to put this in your wrap up, and that is what separates you from the other candidates. So we're going to go with the city council candidates first. And I'm encouraging you to add that answer in your wrap up, please. Do y'all need a few minutes? I can ask some trivia. What do you want to do? Do you guys need a couple of minutes to collect your thoughts? It's okay if you do.
Oh, I'm first.
That's great. So that's how this process works.
So what separates me from these other two candidates? I have a hat on tonight, so that does some. But I think a lot of our views are quite similar. I really do. Getting to know, I've known Scott a little bit for the last few years on the planning commission, but getting to know April, I think April and I align on a lot of issues. And so I really think that our town is in good hands with the candidates that we have before us tonight. I really do. One thing about me that made me just a little bit different, growing up on a cattle ranch and involved with agriculture, that's the foundation of this community. That's what we are built on. In Kanab City, it talks about how we need to preserve our past in our general plan, how we need to preserve our past, but how we need to plan for our future. Kanab will grow, it's inevitable. We need to do so responsibly. We need to continue to look back and see where we came from and how we got to where we are and continue to plan. We can't forget who we are and what we stand for. A lot of that doesn't have to do with our city though and our infrastructure. It has to do with us as the people. Because what makes this town so great is all of us in this room and all of us that are watching this on Zoom tonight. Those that are willing to get involved and participate, that are willing to help people, to help our neighbors. That's what makes this town special. And that's one thing that I love about this town. And that's the reason that I'm throwing myself in to this race, is to continue to preserve that. Having a degree in political science from Utah Valley University, I thought I understood politics a little bit. I've followed politics my whole adult life, and I have a problem with it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy following national and local and state. But when you run for a political office, it gives you a whole different perspective of the political system. My hat's off to all of us up here tonight and those that participated in the primary race, because we make ourselves vulnerable to criticism and to being critiqued. And it's an interesting thing to do. But with that being said, Kanab's a great place. We're going to continue to grow. We need to do so responsibly. We need to take care of the people in this community, and we all need to work together. And it doesn't matter if we were here for a day or we've been here for multiple generations. I would encourage all of you here and those that are watching to just please go out and vote. Participate in the process and make your voice heard. Thank you.
That's a good answer. So I am new to this. I've never done anything like this before. I'm not a politician. I'm just a mom and a member of this community, and I love Kanab. I'm putting myself out there just, I guess what separates me is because I'm not a politician. I'm just an everyday member of the community and a mom. I just want to serve the community, and I want to be a voice and get everyone's input. And so I can communicate that in the meetings. I want to help preserve our small town values. I know we're going to grow, and I think growth is important, and to include all kinds of people moving in this town. And we are a welcoming town, and that's what makes us so great. Our local sheriffs and our police, we wouldn't be a community without our awesome sheriffs and police department. I really feel that community involvement and input is very important. And I just want to stress that we're blessed to live in such a beautiful, wonderful place. Our kids can play outside, they can walk down the street, they can run around town, and we don't have to worry about them because of the type of town we live in. I feel we need to balance growth with encouraging developers so we can build the single family homes that are priced for our young kids. I want to see generations stay here and raise their kids, because keeping roots in Kanab is important for new people moving in and the people that have lived here. We need roots. That's what gives the community feel that we love so much. If I'm elected, I'll do everything in my power to be a voice for you. I believe the sole purpose of government is to protect your rights, and my votes on issues will reflect that. So please get out and vote, and feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns or ideas. Thank you.
I think the thing that separates me most from the other candidates is I am married to the most incredible woman in town. Neither one of them are. The best thing that you get from me being elected is that she will be there giving me the answers the entire time. She's way more competent, qualified, intelligent than I ever could be. So that's what separates me. In reality, I agree with Chris and April on so many issues. I think either way, the city will be okay. We have very similar thoughts on how the role of government should play out. So I don't think there's a lot that separates us as candidates. You know, I would just hope and encourage people to vote who they feel best represents them, because that's what this process is about, is finding someone that you feel most represents you, and then electing them to hopefully be the voice for you in our local government. The best thing that I can do is listen to you as citizens. This is not something that I take lightly. I try and listen to people, understand that I do not have all the answers. My wife reminds me that I should be less self-deprecating, because I constantly say that I'm an idiot. I don't have the answers to your questions, but I do try and listen, and I try and be thoughtful about the answers that I do give. I'm not the best man for the job, but I'm a man who's willing to do the job the best I can. And so I want to be able to be available and serve this community that I love responsibly and thoughtfully. I want to do a good job and be someone that you feel comfortable coming up to and talking to, and understanding that we're going to have disagreements. There are going to be things that we won't agree on, but I will always respect you and your opinion and take it into account and weigh it in my decisions and apply it to how my opinion affects this community. So I'm so proud to live here in Kanab. I'm so proud to be part of this community, so proud to be up here and have this opportunity. I would encourage all of you, like they said, to get out and vote. We need more people to get involved. We need more people to care about the community on a level that don't just say something on Facebook. Please come to planning commission meetings and make your voice heard. Please come to city council meetings and make your voice heard. Get involved, volunteer for boards, volunteer for these positions. A lot of them are appointed positions that we need people to serve in. And this entire process, this entire experiment and freedom depends on our willingness as citizens to become involved and participate in this process. So I don't take it lightly. I would encourage you all to not take it lightly either. Get involved. Let's work to continue to make this a wonderful place to be and for our kids to grow up and make memories in. Thank you.
Thank you. Very thoughtful responses. I wish you all the best of luck. I'm gonna try something just a little bit different. Dance off, flash dance, yeah. For the mayor's only, it's like mayor's only club. You guys decide who would like to come up here first. And I think it would be nice for me to walk this bed double back up here. And come up here and deliver your final speeches. Yeah. Good, downright presidential.
Is it the same question as?
Yeah, I just think it's I didn't think about it sooner, guys, I'm sorry, but I think it's just a better way of addressing the entire crowd. You came to the party with your own mic. Okay, I'm gonna walk this over to Jeff and then you can come up with it.
All right, so it was what separates you and also just kind of closing remarks. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, I think what separates me is I'm pretty protective over Kanab. I love it in our way of life. I'm really protective over it. And one of the things that is I feel like has separated me in the race is my focus on local families and the youth, making sure that they're a priority and that they know that they're a priority and that we send that message. Right now, there's a bunch of tents up on, in July, I talked about tents on the baseball field, and we got tents on the baseball field again, and it eats the grass up, and then we try to have a tournament, and we got weeds. And but none of that really takes money. It's just showing that that's the priority. And for years now, you hear things, and you just can't really have people in positions that control that are over the parks or managing the city say baseball doesn't matter, or and that's maybe a mistake to say it, but it's the underlying attitude that's concerning. And a mayor can maybe help with some guidance there to fix some of those things that can't really. That can't happen. It does matter. Danielle just finished up with, and she's doing an awesome job, just finished up with the flag football season. You should see the work that these coaches do. I mean, I love them for the way they are with my kids. And they put in tons of time. And then they throw a party after the season with them. The 8th grade football team is being coached by 5 or 6 young guys. They don't even have any kids or nephews on the team. And it just can be a slap in the face. And that, the solution to it, I guess, is I'm complaining, but I have a solution. And the solution is just don't do that anymore. Let's find somewhere else. It's an outdoor event. This is weird for closing remarks, but I've had it on my mind all night. Maybe it was noticeable. It was hurting my articulation a little bit, but it's an outdoor event, but they're using amenities like showers, and I mean, they're outdoors. I don't know why we need a fish pond to put our tent on, and we're gonna say, well, it brings in revenue. It does. They're being catered by one company, so I don't know if it's being spread around a lot. We really want to bring in a lot of revenue for that. Maybe they can be in a hotel, or we're gonna use the bathrooms up there, and we're not making a lot of money off of it. There's just something we can do better on that stuff, and I want to help us do better on that stuff. What else separates me? Here, I'll go to my closing remarks. I want to make sure that Kanab can stay small, that we can preserve agriculture, that we can try to diversify the economy so people can afford to live here. I do have time to do it. If it really takes that much time, maybe we got to pay the mayor a little more. But I got time to do it. I can make it work. I promise you I can do that. Thanks, get out and vote. I appreciate the other candidates. It's a kind of a scary thing to do. I'm glad this is the last forum. It's not my favorite thing at all. Thank you, guys.
And musical chairs.
You know, one of the things that's great about Kanab is people are passionate about a certain issue that they go ahead and talk about it. I think the thing that separates me from my competitor is experience. I've held a lot of different jobs in Kanab City. I've been a volunteer firefighter. I've served my time in purgatory, planning and zoning. And you open yourself up to a lot of criticism, and I think it helps you shape your decisions. I have a great understanding of the budget. Kanab City does a lot of things. I think we all have a pet of an organization that we are really passionate about. The big thing that Kanab City does is we provide service to the people that live here. We need to do a better job of doing those things and be better and be more brilliant in the basics. We've tried to do that over the last 4 or 5 years. We just got done with the biggest infrastructure project in the history of Kanab City, and that's building the water tanks and the pipes that improves the fire flow, makes the appropriate water pressure in all parts of town. It's about a $5 million project. It was delayed for a few years because we needed some help to go ahead and do that. Half of that was done by grant, half of it was done by a low interest loan in Kanab City. We worked for several years on fixing the stormwater problems. You guys all pay a small portion of your bill, so we would be able to bond for that particular project when the time comes. The thing that would separate me from my competitor is that is my goal, is to be brilliant in the basic things that the city needs to provide. We need to improve the basic things that we all depend on every day: water and sewer, police and fire protection. Recreation is actually the 3rd largest department in the city. And it's the only one, besides the general fund, that you pay your property taxes. A portion of that goes to parks and recreation. It is also some of the most expensive. When the swimming pool is open, it costs about $2,900 a day for it to be open for 90 days. So parks and recreation is something that we need to be judicious with, but also we need to be careful because that can dictate the budget and things that we have to have money for. Kanab City's done a very good job. There's money in the bank. We carry the largest balance we can in the general fund, and we have money for capital projects so we can try to maintain the facilities that we currently have operating. And I believe that I can effectively do that and we can have City. Thank you.
Wow. So we've heard a tremendous amount of heart and connection to our community, and I think that's what brought us all here tonight. And wow, it just fills my heart to think about how lucky we are to be able to gather and to ask questions and to have them answered and to hear, you know, what each individual here has to say. And April, I want to single you out for a second, because you said I'm just a mom. There are no justices. It's a huge job to raise future community members and leaders. And I think you guys are showing all of you a tremendous amount of leadership coming forward to really want to make Kanab the best it can be. And you've all just given just amazing, thoughtful answers. And I would say, let's just let you all get in. That's not how this works. So, vote early, vote often. register, you can register to vote at vote.utah.gov. I think that what you can also do is encourage your family members and your neighbors to also get out and vote and make their voices be heard, catch them up on some of the issues that have been discussed this evening. The mailed ballots go out Tuesday, October 12th. Early voting at the courthouse, October 19th through the 29th. You can get all that done before Halloween. And the general election in person is November 2nd. So thank you all for coming out tonight. You've been amazing. And now go meet the candidates. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, thank you. It's always so much